So a natural extension of geospatial scatter plots are geospatial pie charts in which the size of the mark still indicates a numeric variable, but now the mark, the circle, is broken down into pie slices based on a categorical variable. It turns out this is not super easy to do in Tableau, at least the way this current data set is organized, and we'll talk about why, but it's going to bring us to some new ideas, namely this notion of measure values and measure names. So we're going to make a geospatial pie chart of election results in 2016. And to do that, we're going to first drag in, let's just do state and not this one. State here from election into detail gives us our geospatial scatter plot. And now what I want here is each one of these dots to be a pie. And the pie should be how, like, the size of the pie should be how many people voted, and then the slices of the pie should be how many people voted for Clinton versus Trump in 2016. Now the issue here is that, and here's what I thought I would do. I would sum Clinton and Trump, and I would get a total, and then the total would be the size, and that part works fine. But then when you want to break it down into color, Tableau gets very confused, and the reason it's getting confused is because Clinton and Trump, as they are here, are numeric variables. The color of the pies, the pie slices, needs to be a categorical variable. Like it's red or blue or orange. That's categorical. And Tableau is not smart enough to say, oh, like Clinton is used in total, and so I'm gonna divide. I'm gonna look at the proportion. It's like, no, like the color needs to be a categorical variable, and so the data set just isn't organized for this particular visualization. But there are workarounds for this type of thing. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to drag measure values into size. So measure values is exactly what you would think. It's the measure value of every single measure, I'm sorry, the aggregate of every single measure in the data set from Clinton to Trump. We only want Clinton and Trump. So I'm going to remove all of these things here. So I click the first one, I'll hold shift, and I'll click the second to last one. Sorry, I keep screwing that up. Second to last one, this one, all the way here, and then right click and say remove. So now I have a dot, and this dot is, for instance, 5.4 million people voted in California in 2016, 2.9 million voted in Illinois, and so on. And here's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to take measure names, and I'm going to drag it to color. So measure names, notice that measure values is a measure. Measure names is a dimension. It is blue here. It's a categorical variable, and if I drag it up to color, it gets treated like that. It's a little bit tough to see on the automatic coding, but you can kind of see it here. There's an orange ring around these blue dots. It's not what we want, but we can change that. So we'll go to marks and we'll say pie chart. And actually you can already see yours is probably blue and orange. To fix that, you go here and say edit colors, and you can say Trump, and you can pick whatever you want. You can tell I already tried to make this video once, but I ran into a problem that was not a good teaching moment, so I redid it. So mine is already red. So the other thing I don't like here is that the dots aren't the right size or too small. So let's do edit sizes and then by range here, and you can edit this thing up a little bit just so I can see them. It's kind of just tough to see sometimes. And this comes at the expense of, especially in New England, the dots fall on top of each other. But now we can see kind of, at least in a rough way, kind of how this election went. Wyoming is overwhelmingly Trump. Colorado was much more on the edge. A place like New York was much more for Clinton, and so on and so forth. You could do all the same stuff you wanted. If you wanted to make another one, put a region in the background, you could do that by making a dual axis plot like we did earlier. We could try to put labels on here. It turns out that's a little bit tougher than you might think. If you wanted to say like, oh, this is this percentage of the total in this state, or so on and so forth. You can try to do these things. It's more complicated. But even just this measure values and measure names, notice how we've gotten around things again. Like the measure values are measures. Measure names are dimensions. And by dragging this dimension into color, it actually appropriately coded the two pieces here in a way that makes sense. So more bells and whistles, obviously, but we're going to move on from intermediate plots here in order to get at some of the other built-in functionality in Tableau related to base maps and custom geocoding. So stay tuned for all of that.